first item that we're going to use in the kit is going to be some of these O-rings. We're going to replace the O-rings on the gas supply tube. We have a bunch that are the same size and then 4 that are much thicker. The 4 that are thicker go on the smaller connector tubes, while 2 go there, 2 go there, 2 go on this end, and 2 go on that end. So the easiest way to extract these is to get a dental tool kit. Okay, and once you have it up underneath it, you just work the O-ring off. Now we just take this one and gently work it on. And there we go. That's one done. Just a few more to go. Now this one, you see there's actually 2. There's one here, and then there's one here. We're going to have to remove both of these. First I'm going to remove the inner. The reason that you remove the inner one first is because if you remove the outer one first, there's a good chance the inner one will fall right into the outer ring, and then you have to work it out of there again. Just saves you a little time and energy. Go ahead and put our O-ring back on. The first one will automatically slide into the first slot. Now the second one is going to go over everything and go into its seat. Now you can see we have 2 new O-rings, and they're actually expanded out a little bit past the diameter of the tube. You can see this end, they're not really poking out past the end of the tube, so that means that this is a very good place for leaks to occur. Got one here, and then we've got one down here. Out of the kit, my seats, and this is off sub 2. I just want to grab one of the seat bags. Now, as you can tell, pre-installed is the screen and the O-ring. Now, if you order these from Kawasaki, or if you order these as a kit, typically the screen is not included. Every now and then you'll get the O-ring, sometimes you won't. Okay, so we put our seat in place and gently push in until it's seated. Then we grab one of our screws. Here's the old screw, and you can see I had to cut a flathead. And here they include a new screw and flat washer that goes back in place of the old busted one. Now we're going to pull out our jets. This is in sub 4. First we have our low. So now, let's go ahead and get our air needle. Then in sub 3, we need to pull out 2 parts. The first part is going to be one of these springs. That goes right down on it. And then there are small little washers in here. Take that washer and we put it on top. And then next we have the little rubber O-rings. So again, the needle, the spring, the flat washer, and the little rubber O-ring. Now it's important whenever we put these in that the rubber O-ring stays where it's at. The easiest way that I've found to do that, pull the needle valve up, lower the carb body onto the needle valve, and slowly screw it in. Okay, now we've seated it all the way down. Here's my marks from before, here and here. And so we want to put it at roughly the same spot it was before so that we can at least get it in the ballpark of idling correctly. So we're going to do a half turn, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. We were 2.5 turns before. We also want to install our choke. Since these are plastic, make sure that you do not go crazy tightening them down. Just a little bit is all these need. That's it, and they should move nice and free. If they don't move free, then pull it back apart and make sure that you're not binding on anything. And if you're not, then re-clean all of this up in here. Okay, so now we're going to take our float. And slide it through. Make sure that this slides easily. As you can tell, it just slides right on through. If this binds, if this doesn't slide through like that, then you're going to want to look at your shaft to make sure that there's no varnish on it. And you're also going to want to make sure that you've cleaned very well inside the sleeve here. All we do is there's a hook, the metal hook. We're going to take this, we're going to hook it on the metal, just like that. Set the needle down inside the seat. And then put the rod in. Now from our pile of screws, we're going to pull out the screw that holds the float rod on. to go. Now your float should spring freely. No matter how you turn it, it should be able to spring freely. If you are binding down in here, if your float seat, the valve and down inside the seat, if it is not actuating the way that it's supposed to, then pull it back apart and make sure that you're not binding on something. Next, we're going to put our drain pan screw back in. Because this is very delicate metal body, do not torque this down a crazy amount. You can easily, on an Allen wrench this length, strip out that screw just by twisting too hard. Okay, now we're going to install the diaphragm. So on the diaphragm, you've got the piece up here, and it lines up here. There's no other way to put it. Your arms, your wings slide into their slots. And then the rubber pushes down into a groove, and it should seat fully down in there. Do not leave it like that. See how we've got a lip there that's bumped up? Don't leave it like that, because that is not proper. You need to actually have it pushed down into the groove. Now from the kit, we're going to pull out one of our needles, and that simply goes down and through, and you can actually see it down inside there dropping through. Then we have our plastic piece. The feet go down. Then we have our spring. And whenever you put your spring down, if your plastic did not go all the way down, there's actually some grooves that it sits in. If it didn't go, then you can just twist the spring and it'll pop the plastic down in. Now we're ready for our top cap, and the top cap has a piece that's specific for this little brass. Make sure that you line those up. Spring is going to go into the top. Included with the kit were 4 new screws. If any of your screws are badly stripped, then replace them with the new screws that you have received. All of mine are good, so I'm simply reusing them. These should be hand snug. Everything should be nice and free. Your butterfly should open and close. If it's binding or not moving, that means it's not properly cleaned. Pull it back apart and clean in that area. Our float's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and everything looks good. We're going to put our main jet onto the needle. We'll go ahead and tighten it down once we have it inside the carb. So for that, we're just going to take the carb, screw the needle jet in, 8mm, give it a nice firm twist. Don't go crazy because this is brass. Brass is extremely fragile. Sub 1 kit. And we're going to pull out one of our float bowl gaskets. There is actually a right way and a wrong way. So whenever you put it in, if your lengths don't match up, don't try to force it in. Don't try to make it work. Flip it over and then lay it down in there. Make sure that it's nice and firmly seated all the way around, and you'll be good to go. So now out of sub bag 3, we're going to pull out 4 of the screws, the silver ones, and these are the float bowl screws. And very similar to the air needle or mixture screw, I always flip it upside down. That way your gasket stays put. Gently work it on down. And then put in your 4 bolts. Giving just a little bit of pressure here with my thumb to keep everything in place. Now I'm not tightening anything all the way down just yet. I'm just getting them to where they just touch the metal. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'm going to tighten diagonally on these screws. Don't do one and then one here and then do a circle, because you're not going to have even pressure on the gasket. You want to make sure that you go diagonal so that you have equal pressure on the gasket itself. Once again, we don't have to get crazy with these. We just have to make them snug. Alright. Last, always come back and double check your first one to make sure that it's still snug. Sometimes the body will slide further down on and you'll still have it loose. There we go. One completely rebuilt carburetor. it back together, we have our connector tubes down here at the bottom. How those look on the back side. We've got one tube right here. We've got the other tube up here. You just need to make sure that you work them in to where you have a little bit of the plastic tube in on each side, and that the O-ring that you put in is seated. Make sure that the butterflies are the same way. You can see them right here. So you want to make sure that they are the same way. Now there is a retaining spring that's in here. And the easiest way that I've found on handling these is a small flathead screwdriver. You just gently pull down on it while you work the other piece in. And it's that simple. Okay, now on the next one, there's just a connector at the bottom. You'll see that there is nothing up at the top. So we slide the bottom connector in. Now this one, the spring fell out. And on the springs, if they fall out on you, there's a little nub here at the bottom. You simply have to put the bottom of the spring on the nub, and then whenever you slide the piece in that's right here, it will actually go into that part. Back on the nub there, and there we go. Our long bolts, put it through. You can see right in here that there's a collar. That collar has to fit up inside here. So whenever you do it, if it's sitting like this, that collar's not set flush. You need to twist it until the collar sets flush. Then you can put the nut on and tighten everything up. Now watch how that collar pulls in. There you go. Slips right on. As I showed in the beginning of the video, a lot of my bolts here on this part I had to cut flatheads into. So what I've done is I actually went to my local hardware store and I bought some M5.8 by 12 millimeter long bolts.